Good evening, everyone. Actually, I forgot to make a video for you guys. Today is November 13th, 2023, and not too surprisingly, we've had a small range session after such a huge expansion session, and on a day without news, none of this coming as a surprise. Now, I had mentioned that I was largely looking to buy dips as long as that Friday low remained naked. If not, the Friday open perhaps would be an even better spot. Kind of around this 436. What's that kind of line up with? Like 43.85 or something? Yeah, 43.84. 83 and three quarters to be precise. Um, Although I wanted to be long, this thing really sold off heavily. Here's the RTH today. This blue, where this blue part starts. You can see we took out this overnight low pretty much immediately. First 5 minutes or so, took it out, accepted below it. We ended up getting a bid off the prior month's high, that MH number. I think, there was an old daily high around there as well. I think on the cash it hit it pretty much the tick. Where is it? Where is that old daily high? No, I don't know. Yeah, the daily high is down lower over here. Anyway, uh, we ended up moving on upwards. All right, we took out the overnight low. We accepted nicely below it. So to me, what I was looking for at that point was, look, are we going to accept below the overnight low on the ES? Are we going to be able to kind of get a move down lower? And what I'd been mentioning pre-market, and I think maybe even in yesterday's video, was that I wanted to be bid somewhere around kind of here, right? Somewhere around really anywhere below 4,400. Kind of this is my golden area. 85 to kind of 95 was going to be the sweet spot if we threw on a 5-minute chart here. Something like this, right? This was going to be the sweet spot in terms of finding a bid. And really, I think this was it here, around 90, 92. Instead, we did a look below and fail. Here's the overnight low. We did a look below and fail of that. We stayed bid there for 5, 10, 15, 20. Grab some liquidity. 25, 30 minutes, 35 minutes. This thing was super bid around that kind of 44.08 area. And unsurprisingly, once we got back above the open, it just kind of drifted on upwards. And usually, when the NQ breaks an overnight low, I might be looking for the ES to follow, but this thing was just so fucking just so bullish. I didn't bother. I was short the NQ. I think I took it short here, 521s, got broke even, shorted again somewhere around here. I think 539ish around that IB high, broke even again, shorted again. I think 564ish somewhere around here. Yeah, at the Euro close, and then I got out once it looks like we are gonna pop the overnight high and keep ramping upwards on the ES. So all that to say is that it's going to be really hard to be short. These usual correlations or whatever you want to call them, they're going to be hard to work to the short side when so many of these shorts from this Thursday session just got absolutely clobbered during that Friday ramp. It's easier to see on the cues. There you go. Thursday session tried to break down. Friday just freaking ripped this thing upwards. Look, I don't have any daily plan for tomorrow. I'm not going to trade the CPI event. If you ask me, I mentioned I'd update that COT shit when it came out today, and it did come out, and it's not too surprising. Look, it's based off of Tuesday's close when we ramped up to here, and it's showing that they got pretty long the Nasdaq. They're actually a little bit short on the ES, which isn't entirely surprising. And on the Dow, believe it or not, they're still short. So I'm still holding this stupid long from whatever this is. Kind of Friday's high, Tuesday's low. This price level. Rusty, they're still shorting, to no surprise. So look, they're getting long the Nasdaq, and yeah, it is the most long they've been in a while. They're short the ES, but they're not really that short it. To me, this thing has room to the upside. The Canadian dollar is the thing that's been standing out to me, quite honestly. And here's the kind of thought process that I'm going through: is that here's the here's just the CAD, Canadian dollar, from here's the start of the year. This thing, yeah, it's mostly been range bound around here. It makes sense that they've heavily shorted it. Look at the sell off from about July onwards. It's been selling for whatever that is, 5 months. Uh, if the Canadian dollar gets into a position where the hedge funds, large specs are so shorted that there is a short squeeze opportunity, well, dollar CAD usually is an indicator of risk on or risk off sort of environment. Did I take off the wrong one? I think I did. And right now you can see that we've had this huge move up in the Canadian in the U.S. dollar for the past 6 months. Makes sense because the 6C was sliding down. Anyway, if the USD CAD, if the Canadian dollar was to squeeze, that would mean the USD would crap out. The USD CAD, this thing would crap out. Where's my little line? There we go. Right, let's say it got kind of the middle of this box. Ooh, this kind of looks like a nice spot, something like this. Yeah, somewhere around here. Let's call it something like that. All right, if we're in a scenario where the U.S. dollar is crapping out, that typically means risk on. And in that scenario, to get back to equities, if we do have a risk on environment, that would support higher prices on the S&P. Now, in that case, you're starting to target, in my opinion, something like 450. How does this all relate to tomorrow? Well, tomorrow's CPI data, pre-market, 8:30 a.m. Right up there. PPI the day after, but CPI 8:30. If there's a situation where this thing comes in and the data is good for the Dixie and all the other currencies are going down, yep, the Canadian dollar is moving up. That tells you they're really short the Canadian dollar, and it can't keep going down. And in that sort of environment, I imagine we're going to get equities pumping. So that doesn't directly influence any sort of trade I'd be looking for tomorrow. And again, I'm not going to be trading. I'll be watching it, but I won't be trading it. But that's just something to be aware of. So not only does the structure, with an inability to close this gap, make me want to bias long as we're above Friday's low and Friday's open, really. Combined with this sort of extreme shorting in the Canadian dollar, which might indicate a risk-on environment in the event that it squeezes, I would be careful looking to the short side. That's really all I've got for tomorrow. I don't know. I don't trade these news days, so I don't know. Hope these ramblings kind of help. If I had to imagine anything, I imagine the Qs are going to lead. I know they were lagging today. The S&Ps were able to wick above Friday's high, the last week's high. The Qs I know stayed inside, but look, the Qs made a bigger move upwards. The S&Ps barely cleared these highs. The S&Ps barely, look, they tagged Thursday's low. Thursday's low is down here. Monday's low is way down here. Here's Monday's low on the ES, right? On the SPY. So if I had to imagine anything, today was a nice consolidatory session for the NASDAQ. I imagine the data comes in a little bit hot, which would, bad news is good in this environment, and I imagine that spikes us up to whatever. Call it another big day. I don't know, something like this, right? That sounds about right. 444, 445, something like that. Anyway, I'm rambling. Have a great night. Trade safe tomorrow morning and tonight. I imagine it's boring tonight. Good night.